In the spirit of respect, authenticity, and reconciliation, the town of Slave Lake honors and acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional lands of Sawridge First Nation within Treaty 8 territory, home to Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. Councillor Adams.
Motion drop, or sorry, did you have a?
Yeah, I just
Sorry, I
added
forgot.
date for Waste Commission. That's it.
Okay, so there's a motion to adopt the agenda with the addition of the Waste Commission to the committee reports.
Yeah.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Called question, those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you. Okay. It is hotter than anything in here, but we'll start with our delegations. Josh, if you want to come up. So we have, if you can state your name and then address into the mic, please. And
Thanks.
the floor is yours.
Josh Friesen, representing Community Futures, Leicester Slave Lake Region. We are, what's our address? 102-229 3rd Avenue South, Northwest, Slave Lake, Alberta.
Thank you.
Yes. So thanks for having me, guys. I just wanted to kind of update you on some of the things that have been going on. The last time I was here representing Community Futures, I was talking about a whole bunch of applications that I put in for grants. And I'm excited to tell you the news. So I'll kind of go through the list of what we've been doing, what we've achieved, and then some of the things we're still pending and some of the things that we might need support in the future for. One, we applied for MMIWG funding through the government of Alberta. It's an action for the government of Alberta to support women who are targeted and LGBTQ peoples who are targeted in Indigenous communities. And the purpose of our grant application was to bring financial literacy and opportunities and training for Indigenous peoples in their community to help with that issue in different ways. So basically breaking the cycle of poverty and helping people move forward. We were approved for that one. I believe I told you that already, so that was really exciting. We were approved for 3 years of funding, the full amount that we applied for, and we've already started working on the program and development. We've hired a contractor who's been reaching out to the partners who signed on to that grant. And yeah, so we're really excited to be rolling that out in as early as September. Going out to different Indigenous and Métis communities and doing the training where we're welcome to do so. We'll be doing this in consultation with those communities. So it's not just a cookie cutter that we go in with. We actually consult with each community to develop the program or to hone it to the needs of their community specifically. So it's a really cool opportunity for us to connect with the Indigenous communities in the Slave Lake region. So that's basically spanning from High Prairie to Wabasca and everything in between. So very exciting. Yeah, and we'll keep you informed on that one. Second one that we applied for was NRED, the NRED grant, Northern Regional Economic Development. I can't remember the name of it, the acronyms, but the NRED grant, we applied to be a economic development hub. So what that means is we're here to support, we're a support hub for economic development initiatives in the region. So we understood that there was a need to support economic development officers or communities that didn't even have an officer, just because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of projects are much bigger than a one-person department and they needed support. So we thought, well, if we pool our resources and pool our people, we can all work together on individual projects. We can utilize the same people to do similar things or different things across our communities. So we applied for 100,000. We received 65,000 for this year. Very excited. It's just a pilot for us to test it out. So we've started out, our goal is to do at least 10 economic development initiatives throughout the region and to work with at least 9 different communities within our region on different initiatives that they have going on. So please, if you have anything coming up, let us know, tell us what we can help with. It could be as small as doing a survey, or it could be as big as writing proposals or helping with large-term, long-term plans. Just let us in and we'd be glad to help as part of this project. If it does show potential, then we will be looking to apply again for larger sums so we can secure more staff to help the whole region. It's a great opportunity for ANSA and they're a partner in this project as well with us. So great opportunities for all of us to work together to help us all out. So that one's really great. Next one was the SCOP grant, Small Communities Opportunities Program. Through the government of Alberta, we applied for 90,000. We received 90,000. And that one is basically bolstering training programs for youth entrepreneurs, adult entrepreneurs, workforce training as well, and workforce placement options. So the idea is to help with getting people into the workforce and getting them to jobs, connecting them to jobs, as well as doing multiple different training sessions depending on the needs that we identify. So currently I've hired a contractor to work on this project for the year, so March to March, and we will be right now we're doing assessment and the planning, and by September we'll be launching all the programs and reaching out to employers to see who wants to sign up and for us to connect employees to. Very exciting, another chunk of change that's coming to our community that's going to help our entrepreneurs, but also help just our locals get into jobs. Another one we've been approved for recently was through it's a multicultural it's an ethnocultural grant through the government of Alberta. And what we applied for is for a program called Omni, opening up multicultural narrative and inclusiveness. The purpose of the project is to bring awareness of the different cultures in our region and highlight some of those cultures and what's great about them. The goal is to bring to welcome people in and make other groups feel like they're welcome by educating everyone in the community about each other, so we can warm up to the idea of working together. This project is going to start is a 3-phase project. We applied for 50,000, which is the max. We received 45,000, so it's great. We're doing a large scale communications is the right word. A marketing campaign around different ethnocultural groups in the region. Followed by the setup of a multicultural society. And then we'll be doing a multicultural event. So far, the theme is breaking breadcrumbs, breaking cultural breadcrumbs. And the idea is that different cultures come together, share their bread from their culture and heritage, and also share some stories about where they come from and what brings them here. Another way of connecting the community. And so we're really excited about that one. We think it really ties in with our immigration population coming to Alberta and the opportunities for Slave Lake to be one of the places that come first, because we are a place where we're welcoming to those individuals. So that was another one. Another big one, the big one was the YES program from the federal government. We applied for an outrageous number. We applied for a crazy amount of money. What the YES program is the program we applied for mirrors what we did before with a program called COD. So it's similar to the COD program. It's a little different, but similar ideas, getting marginalized people into jobs and supporting them into their jobs, as well as supporting the employer getting those people into jobs. So it's a two-sided program. We applied for 4 million, which I was not surprised we didn't get, but we did get 900,000, which is really exciting. So we are going to be running an employment program for the next 4 years, getting youth, this one specifically geared towards marginalized youth, but getting youth into jobs, as well as supporting employers hiring these youth in jobs over the next 4 years. We're very excited about this program. And I think it will make a huge difference with helping our youth gain some skills so that they're more employable, hopefully more retainable, as well as helping the employer around some skills to make sure that they're appealing to those youth market, the youth labor market, especially the marginalized youth labor market. So that's another big one that we're really excited about. We still have one in the one more grant application we're waiting on in regards to it's a micro grant program that helps get youth initiatives started in the communities. We're still waiting on that one. So once I hear back, I'll let you guys know. The next big project that I wanted to share with you, and I really want Town of Slave Lake support on this one, and I will be sending a letter of request to you guys so that it'll be a formal request, is for our digital service squad. If you're not familiar, we've been running digital service squad for the last 2 years. It's a free service for businesses, small businesses, for us to help improve, we assess and improve their digital footprint. So we'll go into the business, assess it digitally to see where they show up, how they show up online. And then we give them basically a map of what they need to do next. And we'll give them so many hours of support to help them take the next steps. Already, we have supported over 200 businesses in our region with this program. We have done 5 hours of work with each of those 200 businesses. It has not only improved the amount we show up on Google, the amount we show up through different search engines, but it also helped boost the business of these small businesses. It's a very important service, especially with economic development and growing a region, especially when industries are doing search to find out where they want to go next. If they can't find a plumber, electrician, schools, et cetera, online, they're most likely just to turn a blind eye and move to the next community that does show that. This is very, very important for us. Our funding is up this year as of September, and we're not looking for necessarily funding. Currently, Community Futures offices across Northern Alberta are banding together to apply for funding through federal and provincial agencies, but we do need tiny bits of either donations or support to bring together for this application. The federal government will apply, they ask us to cover at least 50% through other groups. And the government model, we're hoping to cover the rest. We're hoping to get about 10% funding from the communities that we're serving. So I will give you a formal proposal on this. No
Just a
decisions.
heads up right now.
This is just a heads up, just to let you know. But I want you guys to take some time to look into the program currently, so you understand while all the sites are still up and running. Currently, is being run through Business Link, but we're the contractor for this region to run it. But it's a valuable program, and I think it's going to be even more valuable for rural Alberta as we grow and want to continue to grow. So yeah, just a heads up, Digital Service Squad, check it out, just so you understand what's coming this way and what requests are going to be coming your way. Other than that, we're just running our normal programs. CF office is undergoing a renovation right now. So hence why I'm a little slobby today. I just got back with another load of stuff from the city. Anyways, the exciting part is our office is now, from last year, a staff of 4. We are now a staff of 9, soon to be 12 by the end of the summer, serving this region for economic development initiatives. And we're very excited to keep plugging away. So we just hope you guys have the time and effort to get your teams to collaborate with us, because we want to do as much as we can for this region. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please. Sorry, I just jabbered away.
Oh, that was fantastic. Councillor Hughes.
Yes.
Is there a specific, like just your last comment about our teams kind of collaborating with you? Is there a specific ask in that, or you're just saying generally?
Yeah, actually, Kim, specifically, if you have any initiatives that link to ECDEV, and this is the thing, a lot of people don't realize that almost everything links to ECDEV. Downtown development links to ECDEV, tourism links to ECDEV, organizational structure, strategic planning, any of those kinds of services can link to it. Let us know how we can help, or say, we don't know how we need help, but this is what we're working on. If we're brought into the loop, it allows us to assess how we can help, or what other resources we can bring to the table. Sometimes it's our organizations in general, and not talking Town Slaves specifically, but organizations in general, we silo ourselves a little bit. And there's some really great resources that you can utilize within our office. And if I don't have the expertise, the great thing is I have a huge network of offices with resources too, across Alberta. So I would just love the opportunity to collaborate and see what we can do together. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's great to hear about all the projects we have, and I think there's some connections that can be made with our ECDEV department, and Jeff can get Jason to connect with you.
Yes.
And then we can take a look at what projects we have coming up, or what.
Of course.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Way to go on the grants.
Thank you so much.
That
Yeah.
was very exciting. That's
More to come.
You kept going with big dollars. That's good. I like it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one. Thank you.
Okay. Motion to someone, Counselor Job is on it.
Motion to accept this information.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call question, those in favor, and that is carried. I don't believe there's any business arising from delegations, so we will move into report A, land use bylaw amendment. Joanna.
Good evening, council. I'm presenting land use bylaw amendment for bylaw 13/2024 for first reading. This is a first reading and it is not our application. It is brought by the public, so there's no debate. You guys, if you want me to read through it, I can. The purpose of the report is to give first reading and schedule the required public hearing. YK Career Education Society wants to amend section 87 of the land use bylaw to add educational establishment as a discretionary use in the C1 downtown commercial mixed use. In accordance with section 230 subsection 1 of the Municipal Government Act, Town Council must give bylaw 13/2024 first reading and hold the required public hearing prior to passing a resolution. The Municipal Planning Commission reviewed this application at its July 8th, 2024 meeting and had no concerns. And the applicant has applied to amend the C1 downtown commercial mixed use district to allow for educational establishment as a discretionary use. And this bylaw is being introduced to council for first reading and to set the date for the required public hearing. An educational establishment means a facility approved by the province of Alberta for academic instruction and shall include a public, private, or separate school, college, or university. Section 87 does not currently list educational establishments as a permitted or discretionary use. And amending bylaw 13/2024 would allow for educational establishments in the C1 downtown commercial mixed use district as a discretionary use. The downtown and Main Street area plan specifies that institutional uses may be considered throughout the downtown. Furthermore, the plan speaks to ground floor spaces being used for retail uses and that other uses are promoted for the above ground spaces. This application is being proposed for an above ground space, and adding educational establishments as a discretionary use would maintain alignment with this area structure plan. So your options are to give first reading and schedule the public hearing prior to passing a resolution. And the planning department doesn't have any concerns currently with this application, and we recommend that council give bylaw 13/2024 first reading and schedule the public hearing for August 13th, 2024.
Councilor Ferguson.
I'll just make a motion. Move that bylaw number 13/2024 to amend the land use bylaw number 22/2007 by adding educational establishments to the C1 downtown commercial mixed use district as a discretionary use be given first reading and the required public hearing be scheduled for August 13th, 2024.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call the questions in favor. And that is carried. Next up, short-term rentals.
So the purpose of this report is to provide council with the short-term rentals final report from our consultant, Third Space Planning. Some history is the planning department received an application for a short-term rental or an STR. However, STRs are not currently specified or permitted under the land use bylaw. Consequently, the applicant sought to amend the land use bylaw to incorporate short-term rentals as an approved use. What is a short-term rental? Short-term rental is the rental of a dwelling unit or a non-dwelling unit or rooms within them, characterized as occurring in any housing type. So houses, secondary suites, carriage houses, garden suites, cabins, apartments, and condos for a short period of time. For example, less than a month. This is facilitated by online platforms like Airbnb, VRBO, and primarily utilized by visitors or tourists and often without in-person interaction. Bed and breakfast. A bed and breakfast is defined in our land use bylaw and is approved as a home-based business. Bed and breakfast means a dwelling in which no more than 4 units without cooking facilities are made available for temporary accommodation of the traveling or vacationing public. The number of approved units will depend on the availability of on-site parking. The bed and breakfast shall be operated by a person who occupies the dwelling as a private residence. In an effort to better understand the complexities of short-term rentals and the overall impacts, both positive and negative, the town hired a consultant with extensive knowledge and experience with short-term rentals and regulation development. Third Space Planning provided a proposal and was awarded the contract, and in June 2023, the contract commenced and various phases of the project have been completed. The purpose of this report is to present council with the final report from Third Space Planning, and this comprehensive document incorporates insights from the background report, survey engagement report, council's goal setting workshop, and final community engagement events, namely the open house and survey, where consistent questions were posed to the public at both. Administration will provide a brief overview of the report, and nonetheless, we strongly encourage council members to thoroughly review the entire document to fully grasp the priorities, challenges, and recommendations that are put forward. The report begins by summarizing the project to date, outlining both the tight guest accommodation market and the challenges faced by residents when trying to acquire long-term housing in the town of Slave Lake. Although the number of short-term rental operators in the community may appear limited, they have already influenced housing within the town. If more short-term rentals were permitted, these impacts could be exacerbated. While these effects may be minor compared to other factors affecting our local housing market, such as market housing values or interest rates, they are controllable by the town, unlike these other factors. In the initial survey, respondents overwhelmingly prioritized the town's protection of long-term housing as their primary objective when contemplating regulations for short-term rentals in the community. During the goal-setting workshop, council similarly identified safeguarding long-term housing as their top priority. They also acknowledged a secondary goal related to homeowner revenue, flexibility, and control, specifically in relation to short-term rentals. The options report presented two regulatory approaches: option 1, in-home permissions, and option 2, home lot permissions, which balance different priorities regarding short-term rental regulations. The second community survey and open house sought community feedback on these options and provided participants with the opportunity to indicate if they believed these options were not aligned with community interests. During the second round of engagement, the perspectives of local short-term rental operators were notably more prominent. For instance, while only 27% of the respondents in the initial community survey favored no restrictions on STRs, a significant shift occurred in the second survey, with 61% of respondents and 48% of open house participants expressing this preference. This considerable change in apparent community opinion, well beyond the initial survey's margin of error, may reflect organized efforts by specific stakeholders. For example, a substantial portion, 25% of survey respondents in the second round, shared an IP address or were associated with the same household or internet router. Among those supporting some form of restriction on short-term rentals, there was no definitive preference between option 1 or option 2. Some participants expressed interest in a more permissive approach than option 2, but were not in favor of no restrictions. One proposed idea was to implement a cap on licenses, possibly linked with a vacancy threshold, where the cap would be increased or removed. This concept is detailed in option 2+ in the report. So option 2+, to summarize it, sacrifices some housing protection compared to option 2, primarily to accommodate the interests of current unlicensed operators who wish to continue using their investment properties as short-term rentals. So the impacts on the town's number 1 goal: 10 fewer potential homes, an equivalent to 1.2% of the current rental housing stock, higher market-wide rents if BC modeling is to be considered, on the order of many hundreds of dollars additional rent per year for new tenancies, higher market-wide home prices, modeling not available akin to the BC study cited above, but basic impact established across many North American studies. Impact on the town's number 2 goal: it is less clear that this option responds to council's number 2 goal of homeowner revenue, flexibility, and control, unless what is meant by homeowner is broadly inclusive of local property investors. So a proposed outline of option 2+ was to define 3 types of STRs in the land use bylaw, with limits prescribing for each and escalating business license fees as outlined in the following table. So you would have type 1, which is a unit, is the suite of rooms the operator lives in, not including any secondary suites or detached garages. Limit of 1 license per operator's household, otherwise unlimited in the community. Type 2 would be a unit that is a secondary suite or detached garage suite on the operator's home lot, a limit of 20 available licenses across the entire town, limit of 1 license per operator household. Type 3 would be a dwelling unit that is not on the operator's home, so an investment or vacation property. Limit of 10 available licenses across the entire town, limit of 1 license per operator household to spread this opportunity to more residents in service of the town's secondary goal. Some further recommendations outlined in this report include the limit on type 2 STRs to help mitigate against the loss of potential homes from type 3. And because the town would already be accepting additional implementation and complexities of working with caps and quotas, a cap on type 2 STRs doesn't add new or extra work in this context. Set business license fee high enough to financially sustain an enforcement program. For example, $1,500 to $3,500 annual license fees for type 3 STRs are increasingly common. Define types of non-compliance and set significant fines for each. So example, operating an unlicensed STR, advertising an STR without a valid license displayed, providing false information on business license applications, noise, parking, etc. Some other details to consider, define short-term rentals as the rental of a residential dwelling unit for fewer than 90 days. Require all STR marketing by operators to include a valid town business license or permit number. This is a critical enabler of enforcement, and require all STR operators to abide by a number of basic safety measures related to fire, etc. Require all STR operators to provide prescribed number type of parking spots for guests. Maintain an up-to-date and accurate guest registry and provide this to the town upon request. Post property owner name and contact info on the exterior of the building for community concerns to be addressed directly by the property owner. Appendix D in the report discusses integrating a vacancy threshold into the town's STR policies, along with the complexities of doing so. The report concludes with recommendations from the consultant as summarized below. Given the rationale outlined above, we view option 1 as more consistent with the town's #1 goal of protecting long-term housing. And we agree with the characterization of this goal at the council workshop as a lot more important from an overall public interest perspective than the competing goals. We concur with community input in the first survey and the results of the council workshop that broader goals around supporting business and economic growth and vibrancy can be best advanced through approaches that focus on housing and the creation of new hotel rooms and guest cabins versus approaches that focus more on short-term rentals. While existing unlicensed STR operators would be impacted and would likely not be as interested in long-term renting their units, long-term renting would nonetheless be the option that is available to them to continue to earn revenue from their properties over time. Option 2 has an inherent attractiveness to it because it gives homeowners a desirable amount of latitude on their home lot. However, the secondary rental market, which includes basement and secondary suites, are an important part of the town's housing mix. And we would be concerned that over time, a significant number of these units could be lost to STR conversion under option 2, which would compromise the town's #1 goal. Hence our recommendation of option 1 over option 2. So the options are laid out. Council could direct administration to proceed with option 1 to develop regulatory measures regarding short-term rentals. Option 2, council could direct administration to proceed with option 2 to develop regulatory measures regarding short-term rentals, or option 3, council could direct administration to proceed with option 2+ to develop regulatory measures. And I have provided all the previous reports as well that were done by the consultant.
Okay, I'll open up the floor for questions. For discussion, or both.
Get into it.
Councilor Adams is taking a moment. Anyone else to play? Okay, go ahead, Steve.
All right, I'll come up with it. Okay, so in option 2+ types that you're going through in type 1, 2, and 3. Where I was getting confused in the type 3 piece is where you're limiting that 1 license per operator household. Is that then one company that owns it can have 10, but they're 10 separate licenses?
No, my understanding is that if the property is registered to one, if they have several properties in the
Mhm.
community, they are issued 1 license for 1 property that they own.
So they can get multiple licenses.
They get one. one license for one
Company A
STR.
has 10 in this option. The way I read it was company A, let's say they have 5 STRs
Mhm.
currently, they would only be able to apply for a single.
And that's a recommendation. It
Hmm,
doesn't
yeah,
mean
we can
council has to
change
do
it.
that either.
That's what this recommendation is.
The intent of that regulation is to try and spread, as it said, to try and spread out the opportunity for income or investment property owners across a number of operators, as opposed to just one larger corporation making a monopoly on the STR market. So-
Wouldn't that just come up to a matter of the approval of the application process, saying that more weight will be given to ones with fewer
Well, it's-
licenses, or?
On a cap system, it's
More
gonna
in
be, it's
operation.
almost gonna be first come, first serve. So I mean, if you don't have those provisions, I mean, this is, again, these are just recommendations. We're not at the regulations stage yet of drafting those regulations, and it could be either way, it could be modified however council so chooses. If you feel that is an important factor to help protect and create a number of opportunities, or if you feel that it's not needed and one business could own 10, at whatever stage, this is just basically providing a third option, or option 2+ as it's referred to in here, to kind of go one step further than the first 2 options that were presented, which essentially accommodates the current unlicensed operators right now.
You want to see?
Okay,
Or-
no,
I'll just
go
kind
ahead.
of touch on that a bit. I feel like creating opportunities, it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like we're limiting opportunities. If someone wanted to have 3, 4, 5, why are we saying they shouldn't do that as their business opportunity, right? Like, opportunity could go both ways there. So we're punishing someone for maybe being successful or trying to do that. But I understand the purpose of why, but I wouldn't use the word opportunity, because we're limiting people. So I don't love that one. I'd love to still have a cap, but I don't think you could say company A, you can only have one of these, and I just don't agree with that.
I'm with Counselor Gromlich on this one. I was reading it and I appreciate that. So when we had councils a long time ago, we had council's priority setting session. Personally, I believe in maintaining homeowner and investment freedom first, and then moving to long-term housing second. That would be where I personally lie on all of these things. And I understand that we need to protect long-term housing, and we're working on a few things with that, but I don't love any of these options, to be quite honest. In my mind, I think things would be more effective if we had, I agree with the business licensing portion, that you should have a license per short-term rental. Just to identify that, I like the signage that was discussed, so that you have individuals that are staying there maybe for 3 days and there's a problem, we're able to contact the homeowner. That helps on the bylaw side, and that helps on the neighbor side, making it more friendly. In my mind, it would be something more similar to the licensing option, but let's say we have 15 STRs currently, cap it at 20, council's decisions are binding for 6 months. If we hit that 20, reevaluate, I'm just throwing out numbers, but reevaluate at that time. That way we have the cap while rental vacancy is admittedly very low, but then we're also not punishing any of our current STR providers, which does also provide a gap in the marketplace. Because we do have hotels full right now. You have forestry that comes in for the summer, all the pilots, oil field, it's absolutely jammed. So when we want to have things like hockey tournaments and taekwondo tournaments, people are renting out. And those are just 2 examples of people renting out in a short-term rental scenario for the weekend. I really do not enjoy the limit of 1 license per operator household on this 2+.
Does anyone know if that affects anybody right now?
I don't know. Is there any company? I still don't like it though. That's just my personal opinion on it, but I'll let someone else continue.
So I'll weigh in here a little bit. I spoke with several residents regarding this, and the overall theme that I heard is that they felt that onerous regulations are not necessary. So of the people who did express concern, it wasn't so much about the potential loss of housing. It was more along the lines of, well, what happens to my neighborhood if someone sets up a short-term rental near me? So I understand as a council that option one most closely aligns with our original goals, but when I hear very clearly from the people who we serve that they say, hey, we think you might be on the wrong track. I feel it's important that we listen to that voice and that it's reflected in our final regulations. So as a council, it makes me wonder, are we on the right track with potentially limiting the opportunities in town? And it also shows me the importance of doing public engagement. So a lot of the people in the community who are currently operating short-term rentals are newer Canadians who work very hard to acquire what they have. They are family owned and operated, not big commercial entities. And I would hate to see us limiting their opportunities. That being said, there were some valid concerns around what happens to the neighborhood if a short-term rental sets up shop in it. So I think we can deal with those issues with some of the recommendations in the report. I can wrap my head around a licensing fee. The town expends more resources making sure short-term rentals are abiding by regulations. So to me, a fee makes sense. I can wrap my head around making sure license numbers, permit numbers are easily found. Found on the marketing of short-term rentals. And I can also wrap my head around penalties and fines for non-compliance, possibly even revoking the permit for someone who is a serial repeat offender. But at this point, I don't really feel that the options in front of me represent what I heard from the community. So I think we kind of need to tweak these options a little bit more.
Councillor Choba.
I just want to first of all start by saying that I do agree with Councillor Ferguson. Chatting with a couple of individuals at the STR engagement really got me thinking. I do support the idea of long-term housing. I've always supported one because it's close to my heart. I had a friend who wanted to move here, and it took them almost 6 months to get a place. They had to buy a place, which was good, keeps them here. But, just the stress that they went through. And so thinking about that, it's really cemented my love for long-term housing and long-term rentals. But hearing from community members who currently own short-term rentals, I agree that some of the options here before me do not represent some of the inclusivity that we need in our community if we're thinking of businesses, if we're thinking of bringing people into our community, as well as if we're thinking of increasing even events in town and all that, like the mayor alluded to earlier. And so although these options were reflective of what council wanted at first, I think there's a need to revisit some of these options and maybe tweak some of the limits or limitations on it. I'm definitely not in support of limiting the license to one per operator household. And so I think that's probably where I would start from. I do welcome the requirements for all STRs to operate that was listed about abiding to basic safety measures, prescribed number and type of parking spots for guests and all that. And also having owners' information displayed so that whatever disputes neighbors might have could be addressed directly. I welcome those, and I would really appreciate seeing more of that in whatever plan comes forward. Thank you.
Councillor Adams first.
I too am more in favor of long-term rentals, or at least I started out that way to be very prescriptive. Saying that there's no options in here that fit, I don't think is necessarily correct, as some of my counterparts have stated. The changeover in number 2 to go to 2+, I think does fit the overall concept, where I can see we're protecting long-term in the extreme, but allowing a lot of the STRs to still flourish within the community. The numbers that we're stating in there for the units of type 1, 2, and 3, that is something we can evaluate and redo. This does give us a structure, I guess, or a framework for us to move forward. Limiting the one license, I can already see that being a problem, simply because you just start a new company and you start a new ownership. So it's not really a very good limit. A couple $250 in and I got myself a new license. So the limit of licenses across the town, I think, is a more valid way to do it. I don't necessarily agree in limiting of like the type 2s. To me, a type 1, type 2 are very similar and can be just under 1. I don't really necessarily think we're putting a high risk on our long-term market by opening those up to STR, as they're not necessarily ours the most desirable STR. The part for licensing fees, I'm definitely in favor with that. I was kind of arguing for that and trying to put that forward a little bit more to offset and put it on a fair grounds with the commercial taxation that hotels have to face and anything like that on a smaller or on a larger scale, mind you. So that I think is an integral part, and also the restrictions we're putting around with bylaw and enforcement and the licensing numbers. I really like where that's heading because it does put accountability onto these owners and at the same time gives security to the community, knowing that this is something that's being watched and paid attention to. So I think of everybody at the table here, I probably swung the most, in my opinion, from where I started to where I'm ending up. But I am in favor of fewer restrictions than I originally planned on this. And right now, actually, I'm sitting more in line with that 2+ piece with a few tweaks to the framework.
I would agree with you on that. I think the 2+ is closer. But some of the limit stuff, I know I'm definitely uncomfortable with. Counselor Adams? No, sorry. Counselor Moreland, I was looking.
The proposed outline.
Yeah, proposed outline.
Yeah.
We can change
We
it.
can change
Yeah,
it, yeah.
Thanks for bringing this to us, Joanna. I like that the contractor revisited this plan, and I do like the framework of the option 2+ as well. I think that just opens things up a little bit from the existing 2 options that there were. Speaking to a lot of people in the consultations, I like Bryce said, I heard a lot about we're long-term residents here. We're scared of what disruptancies or can occur in our quiet neighborhood when we do open up short-term rentals with different people coming in. When I think of it, I think, well, that could be that you have the same challenge with a long-term rental, but now you've got more of a long-term issue if the neighbor continues to disrupt the neighborhood. So with a short-term rental, I think, that's minimized, I think. So that's one of the things I didn't think of from the beginning, but I think right now, I know I've been in I lived in areas where there was some long-term rentals in that area that I think the neighborhood would have been happy if that was a short-term rental and only had to worry about them for a few days or a week instead of a year or longer. So that's where I sit.
Counselor Hughes.
Yeah, so reading this report initially as well, I actually agree with the last couple of statements. I was definitely leaning towards the 2+. For me, that kind of found me right in the middle of kind of being able to protect the resident interest, but also kind of relax that control there for the people that are interested in this as a business. So yeah, I would agree with the statements from the last few counselors that have been made too. I think thinking back to the open house for myself as well, it was really great to be in the room with people who are currently doing this and understand how important it is for their livelihoods and that, this is a business for them as well. And so I think for me, the 2+ is close to being more of my comfort level of where I would like to see us sit moving forward. Maybe not quite exactly right yet, but it's a lot closer for where I wanted to land. So.
Counselor Adams.
Just another comment, kind of teeing off what you're saying. At that, you guys ran that very well, the open house piece. It was both people in support of short-term rentals, people who were totally against short-term rentals were there. And it actually had a very open, comfortable conversation that occurred. It wasn't yelling. It wasn't people on polar opposite ends. It was mitigated well, and it might have to do with the food.
It was very good though.
Yeah, but it was run very well, and I saw a lot of the short-term rental people actually shifting a little more over to regulation. I saw the people on the long-term rental side actually shifting more to the middle as well, once they understood what the intent of these people and got to know the, a lot of these STR owners. So kudos to you. That was great for your department to put up and run. It was fantastic.
Very
And thank you.
And sorry, I did just want to mention as well that I'm also in agreement with some of the requirements that you wrote down. I like how thoughtful they were, and I think they really were representing the surveys and like that community feedback that we heard about the neighborhoods and things. So I'm very much in line with a lot of those at this point too. You did good on that.
Counselor Wong.
I think I just want to say too, as well as I think one of the reasons the short-term rental so far has worked so well in Slave Lake so far is we've had local people who own all of these short-term rentals who look after them. For the most part have, they're the ones who are actually, handing over the keys or introducing the people to that space. What I would kind of want to get away from is to lose that comfort and to lose that strength that we have so far. So I don't know if there's a way to kind of limit who has these to, to have, within the province or within a region. So we know that who the owners are, they're looking after their unit. I think one of the challenges I think that could take us down the wrong path.
Counselor Adams.
I don't know if everybody's done, but I might as well put it out there. I'd like to make a motion that council direct administration proceed with option 2+ develop regulatory measures.
Point of question on that.
Oh, sure.
I agree with 2+-ish.
Yeah, that's for them to
So-
still come forward with a framework though.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
still.
We would
this
come
isn't
back with,
passing.
no,
Yeah,
you're not
let's-
passing a bylaw, you're not
This is
putting
not-
regulations in effect, you're just telling us to go and develop
along
some
the 2+
type of
framework.
regulations that align with option 2+ on some level.
Perhaps with some
Yeah.
further.
Yeah,
And then we'll have more debate and it'll have to come
It would
before
come
council
back
again
for-
and
yeah.
then we can fire it around.
Okay, that was point of procedure question.
If we do that, so let's say this passes now for 2+, is there another point of any sort of engagement or we pass, like, I don't know what the process is. So just
What we
asking
will
a
do.
question for that.
suppose that you do some form of engagement.
After this one
on
again,
what is
okay.
gonna be
Yep.
proposed. Yes.
I think I would like to see that happen because
I
I think the engagement has been really good and successful. So I want to continue with that to the very end. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure when we're talking about that this wasn't like the,
Not that framework that's presented in
The
the
final,
report,
I-
exactly.
there- I
Yeah,
think this
that's
is-
just a proposed.
I think
what
it's
it could
moving
look like.
more towards
Yeah.
what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Maintaining business flexibility, but also not having a free for all because that has devastated some communities. And so hoping that'll strike a healthy balance. Okay, that was my point of clarity. Sorry, I don't have anything to add to your motion. There is a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion on that? Okay, call to question, those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you very much.
You.
Okay. Next, we have up the MRC EV charger 1-year usage report. Hush.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to provide 1-year usage report to Council for the fast electric vehicle charging station installed at MRC. This report would fulfill Council's motion requesting 1-year usage report made last year on June 20th. So the supply and installation of that EV charger hardware was fully funded by Municipal Climate Change Action Center. So the town, at the end of the project, town received reimbursement of $124,431.68 before GST, which is 100% of the cost of the project. The EV charger at MRC was commissioned and operational for public usage on July 6th last year. Since then, it has become a frequent stop for people with electric vehicles. Administration presented a report on June 20th last year, providing council various options for setting EV charger user rates. In that meeting, council adopted per unit time rate and agreed to set $20 an hour for the users. Note that this per unit time rate model is most common pricing model in Alberta. The end user is charged for connection time of the charger with the EV. So I have included a table that shows the yearly usage breakdown, and it also shows how many number of users we had in each month. Includes gross revenue, net revenue, and what were the expenses, which would be typically our power cost paid to EDCO. So summarizing that table, overall the charger saw higher monthly usage compared to our early estimated average monthly usage of 300 kilowatt hours per month. In fact, it is 283,000 higher, 283% higher usage compared to the yearly estimated. Flow, which is the company that the charger was supplied by, charges approximately 15% of the gross revenue collected from user rates as fees before distributing the net revenue back to the town. The total cost of the expenses of the power you see on the table, those are collective of energy and delivery charges. So energy charge is approx $1,000. The rest of the 7,600 is almost delivery charges before GST. Based on the set current user rate charges, town is subsidizing approx 57% based on the generated gross revenue from the usage. Subsidy is allowing our charging location to stay in line with rates around Alberta. Also, due to continued high usage of the charger, the region is expected to see increase in local economic development to some degree, resulting from food and shopping, etc., by out-of-town users. However, it is difficult to quantify such increases in terms of dollar value. Based on the usage data and overall positive feedback we received on plugshare.com, the installed charger will continue to attract a lot of usage due to a lack of fast charging infrastructure further north of Edmonton. Since FYI, since last year, another local dealership, which is Whitecap, also installed a level 3 fast charger for their dealership and public usage. They are currently charging $25.80 an hour plus idle parking rate of $10 per hour after 15 minutes of usage. So the options for council are council can continue to offer the set user rate, which is $20 an hour for the EV charger. Council can raise the user rate to $25 an hour to stay in line with the local market. Or council can also consider other user rate model like per unit kilowatt hour rate for the infrastructure. So for just some background, we did provide some information giving more details on per unit time model and per unit energy model. So town can continue to charge $20 per hour, which is average around the Alberta. This model is not always best, as there are several factors that would determine how much energy will be consumed by the vehicle during charging. However, town will be paying energy usage to EDCO based on per kilowatt hour usage. Based on this model, at the time we did estimate town will be subsidizing the usage around the usage of the charger to the user between 42% and 75%, which is highly variable based on the size of the battery. There is also another per unit energy model to consider, which is town can charge users 45 cents per kilowatt hour, which is average based on recently installed chargers in Bon Accord and Smoky Lake. This model is newest and is expected to be widely used, as there is stipulation of increase in rates from energy retailers in the near future. This model incorporates variability in charging efficiency due to various factors like battery size, temperature, state of charge, etc., allowing to charge user based on energy consumed. Based on this model, at the time we estimated town will be subsidizing the usage of the charger at 53 to 55%. So the net revenue received from Flow will be used to offset the operating cost covered from the operating budget to cover the expenses for the power. The installed charger is shared on global network website like Flow and PlugShare, allowing any users to look at the information related to the charger, like size of the charger, see any past experience reviews by other users, verify user rates, parking fees, etc. Our recommendation to council is to accept this yearly usage report as information and further consider raising the rate to $25 an hour to stay in with local market.
Councilor Adams.
I much reiterated what I said at the beginning of this thing is I think we need to be on a per kilowatt hour charge. There are, like you had mentioned in the report, there are examples of that out there. I also add one there that up in Falher, they're charging 80 cents a kilowatt hour to do theirs. From what I understand, for us to net zero on this thing, just an energy cost alone, we're looking at having to do about 85 cents a kilowatt hour. And then for us to even accommodate the 15% fee, that pushes us up to just under $1. So 99.7 cents per kilowatt hour for us to break even. So I would suggest, and I don't mind necessarily putting something in place where we are subsidizing this, by subsidizing in the amount of 57% or more. I don't really have an appetite for that. And I feel we should bring ourselves more in line with market and rather doing a per hour, because as we see, when we get the higher usage on there, that's when we start losing the money. Significantly more per, because at the start, we were actually doing quite well.
Can I question you mid-question?
Fire away.
So you say you're okay with a little bit of a subsidy. So my brain automatically goes to, so as an individual, as a consumer, you have your choice of vehicle. You can choose a gas powered vehicle, you can choose an energy powered vehicle via electricity. Under a gas powered vehicle, I don't have any subsidies. So why would the town subsidize
It's a new infrastructure that's coming in place. It's an environmental piece. It's a green piece. That's where it is. I don't have an appetite for subsidizing like we are now at the 50% range. If we put ourselves more into a kilowatt hour charge, then we're actually getting money back for what we're actually using, rather than randomly guessing that someone's going to charge shorter and we'll make more money off that individual, or they're going to charge longer and we start to lose money. So to keep going forward on the per rate, user rate of a per hour charge, I'm not in favor of. I'd much rather see us go to similar to what Falher is. And I wouldn't even mind us reaching out to Falher to see what their market is like and what they're getting for usage, as they have more competition being right next to Peace River, where they actually surprisingly offer free charging on a type 3, which floors me for the cost that's there. But anywhere coming up the route to keep the path coming through here, I think it's in our best interest to at least keep this open. We've invested the money into it, and I think we should still do it. Whether we're choosing to offset the 50% fee that we're paying for Flow to gather this, or even pushing it if we're doing 80 cents, 20% offset.
That's why I was just questioning, because I'm definitely not in favor of the 50% subsidy. Yeah.
So I'll just chime in just a little bit, and something to think about in terms of this service that we're providing as a town and compared to other services is, I mean, you could probably, as council, can sit on the tent, count how many people in town you know have EVs, and there's not a large portion. There's probably full VEVs, I don't know, 5, maybe less than 10 within the town. If you see on the statistics there, you've got 105 unique users. So you've got 90% of the people that are utilizing this are not from town. So we've got a number of initiatives for town where we're pushing tourism, we're pushing visitors. We want to drive that customer base into the community. You've got a mechanism here that is holding them captive for a period of time to do exactly what you're doing for in other initiatives, whether we're spending, I mean, this is a small amount of subsidy here as well. We're not talking $100,000 here. We're talking this, and at least in the last reporting period, like $5,000 or $4,000. We spend on that more on an event sponsorship to bring people to the community over the course of 1-2 day event. So just to keep that in perspective, is that this is different than cost recovery on your water that you're providing to residents. This is different than cost recovery. We don't even have cost recovery on our recreational facilities, swimming, ice rentals, whatever the case may be, right? This to me and administration directly fits into your tourism piece. And it's fairly simple to see that this is drawing a large number of people from out of community, although we can't get the exact demographics because it doesn't provide us, it just provides us with a unique number, like a unique user account or credit card number, if you will. I think you could guesstimate based on what you see running around town, how many are actually local residents that you're subsidizing and how many are not from here. And so what's the value that you have to that? And what's the value that you want people to stop here and actually utilize that service and shop, visit, go to a restaurant, have something to eat while they're doing it? Or go on to the next community that's more cost effective, because they potentially will choose.
Comment to that is, one, we don't have data that supports we're going to lose people by raising the rate or putting in it so that we are cost recovered. The only data we have right now is 1 year worth of fixed numbers that show that somebody's coming through here to charge up their vehicle. Whether or not we increase that cost, are they suddenly going to try and go around over to Whitecourt and come across, of which, by the way, both units are down, so they can't. So, and I understand they can push that range a little further, but it does make it a challenge. Or they go to Whitecap, which again, I'm fine with them going to Whitecap because they're still coming to the community for that time frame. If we put the rates up and then we see that we go, let's say we have 105 unique users that we've had, just strikes me that that's pretty close to the number of the people that we paid for the entire Vic Center last year. But if we can see then that the numbers have gone down to like 20, then I'd say, yes, you've got an argument. But at this point, we don't know. We have no information.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say to that is that you're recognizing, or you're putting, if you're looking at total net benefit here, $5,000 potentially you're saving on cost recovery to what's the economic spin-off of running that test project for the next year, and you do see a spin. If you think it's less than 5, then if we're making this decision on economics, for sure, let's raise it and let's make it cost recovery. But if the net effect is actually substantially more on the spin-off that you get from it, maybe it's not worth.
Steve touched on a little bit of what I was going to say, but I like, we can't give away 57%. Like, that's crazy. And I don't think that the people are not going to come. Like, they're coming out of necessity. They're not coming because it's here. Maybe the odd person, but there's only 105 unique users. They're not flooding in. So let's say that jump to 600, that's a good thing, but we need to go with Steve's model, or else we're just going to continue to lose more money. So we need to do it the other way, because we can't sit and subsidize it and say it's for tourism, because there's 105 unique users that probably ate at Susan's Kitchen and then drove along the way.
Mm-hmm. Councilor Wong.
I kind of agree with Steve, but I think my biggest concern right now is we're undercutting competition in Slave Lake that currently pays taxes. And so I think if we were going to do something, I'm kind of more in favor of the $25 and being on the same level as the competition in Slave Lake. But I do like what Steve has to say. I think I've got, I'd be in favor of both of those options.
Councilor Ferguson.
Just kind of reiterate what we've heard around the table today. So I'm not a big fan of subsidizing to a large degree. Like Mayor Ward said, we don't subsidize people to drive their vehicles. So I'm not necessarily a fan of subsidizing, electricity when we don't subsidize gas. So I'd probably be a fan of, honestly pushing it up to $30 an hour. And I bet you we probably wouldn't see much decrease in usage. That's kind of where I'm standing.
Well, you would be close anyway, because they're 25 and then they have a fee after 15 minutes or whatever. So that's a good idea.
Councilor Adams.
Again, my thing about the hourly charge is that it doesn't fully account for the energy we use. If we go to a per kilowatt hour charge, we're getting what we get. Whatever we use, we're charging for. What we don't use, we're charging for. We're not being charged for, and we're not charging for it. So, we don't go fill up a car for a flat $25, right? So let's do this. As far as subsidizing, I do get your argument there, Jeff, our awareness statement.